Give me your sense of the man and in the context of the situation.
The man is an intelligent man, Brian. He was easy to talk to. He was aware of the situation. Really, it was a great conversation that we had given the circumstances of everything involved.
You say that he told you he was shocked that he was arrested. How so and why?
I believe he was shocked by the moment that the police broke his door down, had guns in his face. He was unaware that that was going to happen, and he was really shocked by the arrest. He wasn't expecting it, obviously.
To be clear, you drafted a statement with and for your then client, the accused, in which he said, "I will be exonerated." Those were not your words, but do you agree with his assessment?
I agree. That's what he had said to me, that he believed that he would be exonerated, which I believed implicitly that he was innocent of the crimes.
Now that is we're both lawyers. You're just a better one.
I don't know about that.
I do. Your zealous representation responsibility is to do everything you can to advance his cause under law. That's zealous representation. You do not have to say you believe he is innocent. You can say he's not guilty of the charges. They can't make the case. I think that they're speaking out of school. I don't think they have what they think. There's a whole range of qualifying statements. But innocent is something else. Innocent is that you believe he did not do this. Do I have it accurate?
Well, I don't want to put those words in my mouth. He said he was eager to be exonerated, which I believed him to mean that he believed he was innocent. I wasn't judging the case at that point in time. I didn't have the affidavit of probable cause. I knew none of the facts, and I didn't ask Brian about any of the facts or circumstances surrounding the case either.
Okay, that is very important, and I apologize because I have been slapping you around for making such a heady assessment so early in the case. But now that we've put out the statement and you're saying, no, this is what he told you, and that was your takeaway about how he felt about his own situation. Very different. I apologize for any other inference. I'm glad we cleared it up. Now, once you saw the affidavit, what do you think now?
I said from the beginning, I read it 4 times through before I think I got most of it soaked in. I felt that it was a strong circumstantial case that's likely to possibly get stronger based upon other evidence that I would expect. But there's certainly holes. Whether or not the prosecution can close those holes is another story for another day.
What is your biggest concern?
I think the biggest concern is obviously his DNA on the sheath of the knife that was found in the room next to the Mogan body.
We have to know what kind of DNA it is because there is a suggestion that goes like this, that it wasn't him, it was somebody he knew who he was with. Without violating, or this would only help his cause, do you have any reason to believe that it could have been somebody else, that he wasn't alone, that the man who was shot in the shootout at Washington State University, the security guard, is he relevant?
I don't have any knowledge of another person being involved. Again, I never asked Brian any of the facts and circumstances surrounding the case. I made that clear from the moment I sat down with him that I was simply there to represent him for the extradition proceedings and that his attorney in Idaho would really be taking the case over and would want to hear his story first.
Is it unusual, even with that admonition, that people don't tell you why they're innocent and why they didn't do this, and here's what's wrong with this situation, help me, help me?
It was certainly a unique situation for me. I've never had it like this quite before, where such serious charges an individual was facing. But I really wanted to make sure that he understood that I didn't want to know about the facts and circumstances. And I did cut him off several times before he was able to tell me anything about the case.
He asked when he was arrested, we are told, has anyone else been arrested? Does that sound right to you?
That's my understanding of what's out there. When I spoke to Brian about what he said to the police, and he did speak to police for approximately 5 to 15 minutes before invoking his Miranda rights, he couldn't recall what he had actually said to them.
Did his disposition, his demeanor to you, play as someone who was or was not connected to what happened?
I don't really want to judge that. I treat my clients with respect and build a rapport with them, even for the short period of time that I was speaking with Bryan. I wanted his trust for that short period of time so he understood what I was trying to do for him. I thought was in his best interest. I still believe what I'm doing for him even now is in his best interest. So I really wanted to build that rapport, and I don't question things like that. Especially
Counselor,
without
I
seeing the
appreciate it.
affidavit of probable cause.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.